It's a lovely day. Hi, I'm Catherine Lee, the former director of Taipei Artist Village and the treasurer here at Artist Village. I'm really happy to see everybody here. Today is my greatest honor to be here and open this session. To me, Res Artists Conference coming to Taipei, it is just like a dream come true. Back in the 1990s, when Taiwan's economy was getting better and the government started to deal with a lot of historical buildings and abandoned spaces, they didn't know how to make good use of these spaces. So they sent Margaret Shaw and Li to Europe and to the United States to study the concept and the mindsets behind all of the cultural spaces. Margaret and Li, they collected many cases from different artist villages, art colonies, artist in residency programs, all from overseas. This is the book. The Magnetic Fields for Creativity, Cultural Exchange Programs as promoted by international artists in residence started everything from here. And there's a welcome message from maybe the first director of the Res Artists, Michael Hetter. Yeah, so everything, Taiwan's residency starting from this book. These ideas were brought back to Taiwan and have been gradually realized in the recent years. Taipei Artist Village was the first successful case in Taiwan. Back to the year of 2001, Taipei city government reused and abandoned office building with a very good location near to the Taipei main station, and they transformed it to support artist production and the cultural exchange. It helps the Taipei city government to make the connection with her sister cities and build up the city networks. Especially, we work with different foreign offices in Taiwan, such as the Goose Institute, Bureau Français de Taiwan, and the British Council, American Institute in Taiwan, Japan-Taiwan Exchange offices, New Zealand offices, Australia offices, etc., etc. And the AIR Taipei, which is a program to promote the ideas of cultural exchange via the residencies. We receive the international artists coming in and sending the Taiwanese artists going out for the bilateral exchange. So within the 2 decades, thousands of artists got benefits from these exchange programs. When we prepare the 20th anniversary of the Taipei Artist Village in 2021, the artist and the former director, they told me we should invite the international platform back to Taipei for the stronger connection with the world and the more collaboration for the new age. Although Taipei Artist Village right now is closed down because of the city plan and the urban regeneration, all of the residency program moved to the Treasure Hill Artist Village, and we continue to carry out the talent incubation and the cultural exchange in Treasure Hill. The mission of the AR program is still going on. And I used to work with Margaret in Bamboo Curtain Studio almost 10 years. I know she deeply believed that art and culture can break through Taiwan's diplomatic difficulties, and art and culture can soften people's heart in many aspects. She constantly looked for all kinds of opportunity to promote international exchange for artist incubation and the cultural study. She was a board member of Res Artists. I know she tried to invite the Res Artists coming to Taiwan for a long time. So after 20 years, after the pandemic, we really make her dream come true. Thank you so much, Res Artists team. And thank you so much for the Treasure Hill Artists team. Without your effort and hard working, the Res Artists Taipei conference will not happen today. And then let me introduce the speaker for the keynote speech, Professor Li. She has many titles: professor, curator, writer, consultant, sociologist, environmental activist, and there's so many. But I think the title she likes the most is the not money-making artist. In the year of 2016, she received the National Award of Art, which is the highest art honor in Taiwan. She was the curator for the Taipei Biennale in 2018. She is known as the godmother of the social engaged art in Taiwan. She and Margaret were the best friends, of course. Since 1990s, after martial law was lifted, they participated in many social actions to fight with the government and ask the government open to the public. They believe that people's voices should be heard. People's opinions should be seen through the arts. They believe the artists can make the social impact to twist our mindset and bring our life beautiful and meaningful. Today's keynote topic is development and direction of art residency in Taiwan, art as social process. She will share the journey over the past 30 years in Taiwan. Let's welcome Professor Wu Ma-Li. And let me remind you, you can use Slido. Where's Slido? You can use the Slido to make the notes or to. Do you have Slido? Okay, yeah. This is Slido. You can use the Slido to make your notes or to have any question. You can just write it up. And then later on, after the speech, Eliza will be the moderator for all of the questions. Okay, here you go.
Yeah, thank you. And hello, friends. I'm really very happy to be here. And it's really also a great honor for me. It should be, Margaret's wish, to see all of you. But I'm sure that she is with us now. So thank you, Catherine, for the introduction. So I think because it's really a very important gathering for friends from the world, and so I'm thinking maybe I can give a bit the background, the cultural context of Taiwan, how, for example, the Artist Residencies was built here. So I will explore mainly three aspects. One is about the development here in Taiwan, and the other is how they shape their programs, and then about the challenges, how we map in our future, and how we really build a so-called ecosystem for the artists in residencies. So here you see a picture of a Bamboo Curtain Studio. So Bamboo Curtain Studio was built in 1995. So at the very beginning, it's only for Margaret and her friends as a ceramic studios. But later on, she opened the door to all the artists. So here, for example, you can see one of Marber's work by an artist, Wang Deyu, who set up the chairs on the roof of the studios. So from this work, I wanted to say, in the 90s particular, it was a trend for site-specific art, or to work outside the so-called white cube. And Bamboo Curtain Studio at the time played this very important role for the artists, because in the early 90s, they were only Fine Arts Museum, Taipei Fine Arts Museum. Here in Taipei and also in Kaohsiung later on, there's Kaohsiung Fine Arts Museum. But the galleries, they didn't really accept those kind of so-called site-specific installation work. So at the time, Bamboo Curtain Studio really was very important to most of the contemporary artists. And here you can see another image which is about an outdoor exhibition. It's about an environmental art exhibition by Dam Shui River, which was curated by Taipei County government. And this picture also showed that it was a trend that the artists in Taiwan began to more interested in the outdoor space than the white cube space. So there was really a kind of urge. I mean, the artists really wanted to have more spaces for their artistic performances. So here I just put some key timeline for you to understand how it began and how it developed. For example, in the 95, it was the year when Babukaden Studio was founded, and also at the same time, it was the environmental arts exhibition. Was in Taipei County. So you can see all this movement also by the cultural workers in Taiwan. So they will ask government to open up small spaces, especially the public spaces, for art. And that's why in 96 you can see that Taipei at the time, they were trying to remapping Taipei cultural landscape, which means that the city government at the time tried to open up many public spaces. And because, for example, like the military spaces or other official spaces, they were trying, to see whether it's possible for artists to use. So at the same year, in 96, the National Cultural and Arts Foundation was founded. And it's very important because until now, most of the artists got support from our National Cultural and Arts Foundation. And that's also encouraged some group of artists. For example, in 97, the Performing Arts Alliance, although they already have a kind of association, but they began to form a kind of national Performing Arts Alliance just to make sure that all the resource will be equally spread. And also at the same year, in 97, you can see from this picture, it's the 孤岭街小剧场. So it means, from the Performing Arts Alliance, because they thought they need a lot of places, especially theaters, in different size for their performances. And that's why that was the very first one, a kind of avant-garde theater actually transformed from the police station. So since then, you can see there are a lot of social movements happening, especially in Taipei, but also in other parts of Taiwan. And it was very important to mention that nowadays, when you go to Huashan, it's certainly a very interesting art district. But actually, it can be come to this stage. It was because in the 97, there were groups of artists. They advocate for that. Because at the time, it was an abandoned public space. But now, now it becomes a kind of art center. It really through that movement. But also, there was one very important factor. In 97, it was because the Council of Culture Affairs, which was the Ministry of Culture now, at the time, they also set up a preparatory office for artist villages. But the artist villages, in their idea, was actually very different from what the artist wanted to. So I can show you the images here. You can see on the right-hand side, this is supposed to be the artist village according to the whole plan. So the whole area, it's in the middle of Taiwan, where the 99 Peak locates, and it's all together, it's about 28 hectares. So it's supposed to be an artist village, but you see it's 28 hectares. So in the government's plan, it's actually not really for the artists, but it's more for the tourism. So when we got to realize that the national government, the central government had this plan, so we started to get together, the artists and cultural workers, which we try to say, actually the artist residencies would be better in the urban area, but not in such a rural area. And also, because we don't have any experience in organizing artists and residencies at the time, and that's why we were asking to do the research. This is what Kaohsiung just mentioned. The first book that we did, Margaret and I, and also with other colleagues. So we went to different places of the world, and I especially go to Europe because I have studied in Germany, and also other colleagues to different countries. So we try to gather all this information and put together in this book. And also just to show, if you wanted to make an artist residency, certainly the artist should be the center focus, but not the tourism. And also, as Kaohsiung just mentioned, there's a foreword by the president of the Artists. So in this book, it was published in 1999. So after this research and the preparatory office of the Artist Village also has its own journal, which called Artist Village Creative Residency. So it's also tried to introduce, how an artist residency should look like, etc. So later on, we can see that in '98, because there are so many artists, they were claimed for spaces, and that's why the provincial government at the time tried to rent the warehouse, railway warehouse, and then the Art Stock 20 was the very first one transformed into a kind of artist in residency. But because the railway warehouse in Taiwan, it's always in the city center and also near the residential area. And that's why the Art Stock 20 play very much a role, not so much like artist focus, but more for the art education and also community engagement. So you can see the Art Stock 20, it's very much like a kind of small art center in a sense. So it's not a so-called pure artisan residencies. But at the same time that the provincial government also doing overall planning of the railway network research. And since then, there were a couple of other railway warehouse become so-called art center or artist in residency. So now you still can visit to, for example, Jiayi railway warehouse. They still provide artists in residencies but also exhibition spaces, etc. for the artists. And then in 1999, there's a very important visual art association founded. And also 1 year later, there's also Women Artists Association founded. All this association actually made the major members are contemporary artists. So the reason why we got together, it was also because of the space resources, because we saw there were a lot of abandoned spaces, and we wanted to transform it into a kind of artist in residency or art center. So later on, you can see that what Kaohsiung just mentioned, that in 2001, that Taipei Artist Village founded. And here you can see a very interesting photos. This is the railway warehouse, so stock 20, and also how it transformed in a way. But certainly later on, it looks much more beautiful than this. But because of the urban gentrification, so now stock 20 is no more, but the only one was in Hsinchu. Okay, and here I would like to mention when the Taipei Artist Village was founded in 2001, at the same year, we have the very first symposium on alternative space. And I would like to share with you the photos. So on the right-hand side, you can see there's also probably the former manager of Acme, the Jonathan Harvey, and also at the time it was the director of Headland Center of the Arts. It's the Kaohsiung. So they came to Taiwan and to discuss with us how to build the program for artists and residencies. And on the left-hand side, you can see also the research team of the railway warehouse planning team, and with our guests from abroad. We were traveling to many places in Taiwan and just to see, the possibilities and how to build up the residencies program. And because of that, and also because our former study, we were really against to have a kind of huge artist villages in 28 hectares, like the government wanted to. And so through our research, we were trying to promote a new idea to use the empty spaces or the used spaces for artists in residencies, and also in small size, but also in different places of Taiwan. So not just one central, huge one, but really separated into many different places. And that's why in 2003, we have this book published, and it's also from our research on the how to reuse the space for creative programs, etc. So at the time, for this book, I wrote an article and saying that because from the many examples I saw, especially in Europe, so the spaces, the reuse of space is not just for art, but also for different group of people, social group. So with this idea, I was thinking it would be very important that when we want to reuse the space for the art, but actually it's not only the artists can use it, but also the community and different kind of social group should share the space together. And that's why I wrote the article saying the spaces as a medium for, bridging or stitching our living world. And that's why you can see, for example, we just mentioned the Treasure Hill. It was founded in 2011. A case like Treasure Hill, it's not only a space for artists, but also there are a lot of social issues there, like the special politics, because this particular place used to be a park, but because after the Second World War, there were a lot of soldiers. They escaped China communism and to Taiwan, and they built their own houses, tiny houses here. So for some researcher, they would say this became a kind of historical cultural landscape of Taipei, which is very important. We shouldn't destroy them, and that's why it was kept. But because it's not fit to the modern idea of our living space, and that's why the government has done some renovation, and then there were some houses were empty, and that's why they tried to thinking whether this could be transformed into a kind of artisan residency. So there are a lot of special politics in behind, but also at the same time because of the transformation of the economy. So at the time, we discussed a lot about the so-called creative city or creative industry. And so in 2011, when the Taipei city government make this space into a kind of artist village, their idea is actually provide this space for culture, entertainment, or for leisure culture, but through art. So this is why now, Treasure Hill is a very popular space because not only the artists have their residencies there, but also there are a lot of art activities there, like every weekend, or there are also light festival once a year, etc. But also at the same time, there were also residents here. So, the artist residency here, they also need to try to engage the community, the residents there. So you can see somehow, for me, the Treasure Hill set a kind of benchmark for the artists in residencies in Taiwan, because on the one hand, it was very successful. On the other hand, because they were facing a lot of issues, and they try to find the solutions for that. And that's why later on, you can see a lot of this kind of artist villages or artists in residencies in Taiwan. They were always trying to combine all these elements together. On the one hand, for the urban revitalization and also community engagement and art education, etc. So I would say somehow most of the artists in residencies in Taiwan, actually, they were funded by the government, either by the central government or by the city government through different projects, not only art project, but also it could be environmental project or different kind of social welfare project, etc. And this is really very different from my experiences in artists in residencies in abroad. So my first experiences was in Civitella Ranieri. So Gordon Knox was the director at the time. So I was really very impressed by the residency's experience at the time, because in Taiwan, as I just mentioned, art is seen as a tool for resolving certain social issues. But here you can see from the vision and values, they just bring people together and hope through the exchange of ideas can make a better world, somehow like that. And my second artisan residencies experiences was in Germany, and they just provide houses, studios for up to 1 year. And they don't ask you to do anything. You just have the space for your own work. You just concentrate on your own work. No exhibition, no any activities, except that artists, they would exchange ideas together. And this one, Bellagio, was the last one I went. It's in 2002. And Bellagio is also very different than the other residencies, because it's not an artist in residencies. It's just it's a residency for all kinds of discipline. So again, you can see their mission is, again, also to make a better world. What I was so impressed is all the residencies I got invited, it was always really very much focused on the artists, and also believe that they can contribute to the world. And how they operate the residencies is really very different from the mode in Taiwan. So through my experiences, I would say that artist residency is somehow a place show the generosity, and also a place to share and to appreciate, and also really to show what we care. So I think there are certainly a lot of issues we can talk about it in a different session of the conference. Thank you. That's my report. Thank you.
Let's welcome Director Lisa Dawson and to be our moderator for this session.
Well, thank you so much, Marley. We didn't actually email each other and organise our matching outfits, but we were pleasantly surprised. But what an incredible overview of the past 30 years in Taiwan, and no one to do it better. So thank you so much. I thought I'd start the ball rolling, and I've got a couple of questions myself, but I really want to encourage the audience to use this Slido tool to please pop your questions in, and I'll be fielding questions to ask to Marley. She's a national treasure here, so we need to use her time and pick her brains, so please put your questions forward. So I guess first up, Marley, when I think of arts residencies in Taiwan, the thing that stands out for me the most is the way that the arts residencies repurpose spaces, and often abandoned spaces, factories, etc. About a decade ago, I was involved in a project in Japan called the Setouchi Triennale, and there's also a sister festival called Echigo Sumari. And in a similar way, it's reusing abandoned houses and schools as arts residency venues, I guess. And in this case, this region is suffering from great economic decline, a very ageing population there, and the idea is to draw attention to this context and to actually draw people back to the region, so to invite, families back, etc. And certainly in my time involved with that program, it was actually working. So I witnessed local employment picking up because there was the establishment of cafes, etc. They even opened or reopened schools that had been abandoned because families were moving back into that area. And I just wondered if in Taiwan your repurposing of spaces, and particularly regionally maybe, has had that same sort of impact. I believe they call it the Sumari effect, actually.
I am not really quite sure because the way how we structure artist in residency is very different from Japan. On the one hand, Etsuko Sumari has actually worked for a very long time, but at the very beginning, they have a huge amount of money from the government to revital the whole area. And this is not really the case in Taiwan, because in Taiwan you can really see there are many artists in residency use the space, but it's always spot by spot. So it's not really with the kind of overall planning for the region. Yeah, and also it's some either run by the governments, but most of them run by the private sector, and which is really quite difficult. But a lot of us really try to learn from Etsuko Sumari, but it's really a kind of urban planning, from the government, and we don't really have that kind of case so far.
Thank you. I think my next question is about, you've talked about the generous support of the Taiwan government in developing and establishing arts residencies, and I can assure you that certainly doesn't happen anywhere else, or everywhere else, I should say, in the world. And I've got a few questions for you around this. I guess the first one is, how do we champion arts residencies to our government? How do we, make policy change for them to support arts residencies in a particular region? And I think in my role at Res Artist, probably the question I get asked most often, or two questions, I guess. Number one is, why do arts residencies charge fees sometimes? And the second one is, if I'm in a country with no access to funding at all, what can I do? We were actually talking about this yesterday internally with Res Artists, and everyone has different views, but personally I'm of the very firm opinion. At the moment we have a fairly healthy ecosystem of opportunities for everyone. So there are definitely arts residency models out there that I guess are the pinnacle of what a residency could be if it has that government support. So obviously paying for travel costs, accommodation. At the extreme end, they also pay a wage for the artists, a very good monthly wage. So really the artists are not out of pocket at all. In fact, they're probably better off than if they were at home. And then at the other end of the spectrum, we've got arts residencies who are usually in lower socioeconomic regions who have no government support, who do charge artists for the experience. And most of the time, I think it works because artists coming to those regions are able to access funding themselves for residency grants. But I wanted to find out your take, I guess, on these two questions.
It's good that at the same time that most of the artists in residencies in Taiwan is actually supported by the government. And it's really, they got to fit to the so-called cultural policies. And that's why I mentioned that the residencies here in Taiwan, most of them are very much exhibition-oriented. So they don't really let you do your own work. So mostly you get to engage the community and also do your exhibition, and also for the so-called cultural education, art education's purpose, etc. So this, I think it's quite hard because it will also make the organizer very busy because depends on where the funding comes from. So they really need to do, much more work than the other one. But the residencies I show, where I have been to, the Civitella Ranieri was a private sector, and also the Bellagio is from Rockefeller Foundation. They are very rich. Only the Wolfswede in Germany, it's run by, it's sponsored by the government. They really give you not only the space, but also, month's fee so that you can survive. It's really just wanted to let the artists concentrate on their own work. So it's really very diverse, and that's why my experiences of the artist residency, I would say, for me, I feel that generosity and also kind of trust and appreciate the talents of the artists, and also they also believe that art can change the world. While here, I think in Taiwan, it's not really so much in that case. So art has a very strong social function somehow.
Fantastic, thank you. We've actually been getting some wonderful questions through the audience. So this session is both in person for you guys in the room, but it's also online. So we've got people tuning in from both areas. So I might just pick a couple and run those by you, Marley. So I think this one's really interesting. So what do you think is the duty of an artist in a context of social crisis? This is from Denise from Argentina.
What is
the duty of an artist in social crisis?
I think art is just a medium, it's a language, and through the language you can either express or communicate or find a solution with the people together. And in this case, I think artists in residency can really also play a major role in as a medium, between artists and the community, to facing that kind of challenges.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. I mean, I'm a bit biased, but I think arts residencies can pretty much do anything. And the thing I love about arts residencies is that engagement with communities. There's, the artists don't just sit there in their studio for the most part. They're out there engaging with other artists, with local communities, and it can take so many different shapes or forms along the way. So I think that social context is really important. And maybe along the same lines of that question, there's another question about, let me just find that again. How do you see the relationship between artist residencies and urban development? So should artists in residence be furthering or challenging urban development? You talked before about the, social politics, you were calling it. And
it's very difficult to answer. But I think art is somehow a very interesting tool that you can really work in between. So not really against our pro for certain urban gentrifications project, because certainly there were a lot of artists in residency was set up because of that kind of effect. But I always say that although my idea for artists in residency is kind of utopia for the artists, but at the same time, from the cases here in Taiwan, we found that this utopia became a kind of heterotopia. So it means in the artists in residencies, you are facing very different or diverse social issues, and you learn from it, and you also try to find a language for it and communicate with people. So I think it's really not a simple issue, and also really from case to case, because sometimes the artists will get together against certain redevelopments. But sometimes artists will say, okay, we really need to have an ecosystem. It's not just about art making, but also you really need to have the whole industry to support it. So it's really not a easy question to answer.
Yeah, and we were also talking internally yesterday about how much the field has changed over time. I mean, when Res Artists first started, it was really arts residencies who were, they were all funded residencies, but offering that time and space away model. And so I know that you're a practicing artist. You've done these incredible residencies at Civitella and Bellagio and Warp Suite, which is certainly one, very valid model. What is your take on how the field has evolved today? So, as I mentioned in my opening speech, I mean, really, since I started in the role, even in the past 8 years, I've just seen so much change in the field. And it is really these external factors that are shaping residency models today. So it could be technology, it could be even, the development of Airbnb, things like this. What do you think of the changes in the field, and where do you see it heading in the future?
As I mentioned, that there were a lot of artist residencies in Taiwan, and a lot were run actually by artists or art administrators, but they were really very much depends on the public funding. And the reason why that they were, like in Taiwan, I mean, as a small island, we have more than 30 different kinds of artist residencies. So it shows that, what I wanted to say. So it shows, on the one hand, it's because they were this public funding, so you can try to use the funding, the grant for making an art festival, or really to set up artist in residencies programs. But somehow, as I said, that most of the residencies are really very much exhibition focused, because they need to have the outcome, the impact to the public. And I think there's good side of it and also the bad side of it, because the artists very much been asked to do something in the residencies. And this is really very different from my experiences in other countries.
Yeah, that's really interesting about how government funding, I guess, can dictate the programming and shape the models. I've got a question for you from the audience that is more personal, I would say. So you were introduced as a non-money-making artist, a title I love. Is there a different career you would have pursued, or do you think being an artist activist has the impact you wanted in society?
I can just take an example. So I am doing my own artwork, but I think nowadays probably it's better because I do more conceptual art and installation art. And in Taiwan, it's almost like you cannot find any collectors for that. But fortunately, we have more and more public museums, and they will collect the works. But in recent years, I work very intensively with Tainan Living Arts Center. So because Tainan Living Arts Center taking care of different cities and counties in southern part of Taiwan. So we especially work a lot in the island outside Taiwan, like in Penghu and Jinmen. So in those particular so-called remote places, they don't have that much cultural resources. So we were trying to helping them either support the artists or trying to set up space for them, so that a lot of possibilities will be possible in the place. But in doing so, at the same time, we really need to set up or to find people who can take care of the program, because we are not living there. So I think for me, it's really very much like a social worker's work. You try to bring all the infrastructure together, certainly with the support of the Ministry of Culture, Art and Culture, because Tainan Living Arts Center is part of the ministries. And so we just try to set up infrastructure in different remote places. And in this way, I would like to say that the art or artists there play also a kind of social role, but in a very immediate way. Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, I think we've only got about 1 more minute, so I might ask one more question. Thank you so much for all your questions, audience. You've been amazing. There's so many to choose from on my phone, Marley. Okay. It's a very difficult decision, but I'll go with this one. In Taiwan, how do you advocate artists as careers? So I guess being an artist as a career path, and how do you build the definition of this concept? So in Taiwan, how do you advocate for having a career as an artist?
I don't see art as a career somehow, although I teach. I teach in the universities, so I think it's where I get my financial support. But I think art should be, part of our life. The major element in life. So I really hope that that no matter who you are, you can really enjoy it and appreciate art in many different ways. Yeah. And I think that's really what I'm doing.
Thank you so much. We've run out of time, but please join me in giving a huge round of applause to Marley. Thank you, Marley.
Thank you, Professor Wu and Director Dawson for the insightful discussion. Thank you.